Hey everybody. I'm coming to you. I'm doing a quick video, which is something I never do. Want to share a testimony about a gift that God has re-given to my family. It was too much to type, so I'm doing a quick video because I want to share this blessing that God has given to my family again. A month ago today, my granddaughter, who just turned 2, very healthy baby, was placed on ECMO, which I later learned in the week was full life support due to respiratory failure, and because she had pneumonia and rhinovirus. So rhinovirus gave her pneumonia. So on October 28th, she started running a fever. And, we were treating her with, the fever reducing medicines. Same thing on Sunday. Sunday, I called the pediatrics and they told us to be there Monday. Now, mind you, we ain't think nothing of it too much because everybody had been sniffling because of the weather changing, being up and down, hot, cold 1 minute. Everybody was in here sniffling due to allergies and sinus stuff. And so that's what we were thinking. But because she had been running a fever and we couldn't quite get it to break, wanted to make sure she got seen. So my daughter Shanice, which is her mom, took her to the pediatrician at 8 o'clock that morning, and they tested her for COVID, the flu, and strep, and those tests came back negative. Told us to keep doing what we've been doing. So we bring her home, do the same thing. Now during this time, she's not as nowhere near as active as she had been. She just wanted to lay around and play, and we could get the fever to go down, but we could not get it to break. Same thing on Tuesday, but now she's starting to cough a little, but it wasn't like nothing that was too concerning. So Wednesday, she's still running a fever. So I tell my daughter to take her to the emergency room while I stay here with the other kids so we can see what's going on with her. So she takes her to the emergency room and she calls me. It was like, Mom, they said she got an ear infection. So I'm like, well, why didn't they see that she had an ear infection on Monday? And the doctor told Shanice that the ear infection could have developed shortly after she left the pediatric because it only takes a couple of hours. So I'm thinking that this fever that she's been running is in relation to the ear infection. So they give her amoxicillin, a prescription for amoxicillin. They come home early Thursday morning, and they also gave her some medicine at the emergency room, which broke the fever. So she comes home Thursday. She's in here playing, doing her little thing. We thinking it's all over because now we got the appropriate medicines to treat this ear infection, and she's gonna be doing good. All is well. That night, we go to bed, wake up Friday morning, and she doesn't have a wet diaper, and she's running a fever again. So I'm concerned because I know that a dry diaper is a sign of dehydration. So and then she's starting to hold medicine in her mouth and not take it. She actually started doing that on Thursday, but Friday it was getting worse. It was like we almost was trying to fight her to get the medicine in her, but she would take it. And she wasn't eating and drinking nowhere near as much as she had been doing earlier in the week. So I'm thinking it's in relation to the ear infection because I know that it hurts. Like when babies have an ear infection, sometimes it hurts when they start, trying to drink and suck. So I call the pediatrician and I tell them all of, like she doesn't have a wet diaper. She's still running this fever. And the nurse I spoke to was like that they couldn't get her in to be seen because half the doctors was out sick, and to take her to the emergency room, and they're going to have to figure out a way to get medications and fluids in her. So I hang up. I'm like, okay, cool. So she had a bowel movement, and I couldn't decipher if what I saw was all related to the bowel movement or if she had a wet diaper. So I was like, let me just wait a little bit and see, if she does have a wet diaper. So her fever breaks and she goes back to playing, and all is well. And she did drink a little. She was drinking water. She was drinking her juice, and she drank maybe about 4 ounces of milk. We go to bed, but when she goes to bed, she's laying on me. So she starts coughing like real bad about 4 o'clock in the morning. I mean, like coughing bad. So she's coughing bad and whining at the same time. So when I get up with her, she's burning up. So I'm trying to give her medicine. She wouldn't take it. She went to coughing and gagging. I was like, that's it. We're going back to the emergency room. So this is Saturday. So Saturday morning, I take her to the emergency room. We go in. When we get there, she has a temperature of 103.8. The nurse in there is like, well, you know, you could give her suppositories. And I looked at that nurse because what we're not going to do is go home. We're not going home. I know she's dehydrated because, again, now we still don't have a wet diaper. And these people trying to talk crazy. And if you know me, you know somebody finna do something today. She's going to stay here and get some fluids in her. And I know you guys can give her the antibiotic via an IV. So that was the goal. So I'm telling them that. So she's coughing while she's there. The doctor comes in and she was laying on me. She listens to her. She was like, well, her lungs sound clear. But when she was laying on me, she was listening to her right lung. And then I think she listened to the left one, but she didn't say anything. So she was like, well, she was telling me about the same thing about that the nurse was saying that, you know, we could give her Tylenol suppositories. And they had decided they were going ahead and do a nasal swab and just test her for everything. I think it's 16 viruses at that time. So I'm like, okay, cool. So we just sitting in there, and next thing I know, a tech comes in and said, we're finna go get an x-ray. Okay, cool. So we go get this x-ray. When we go get the x-ray, come back, I don't even think 10 minutes went by, and she comes in, she was like, we're going to send her to Greenville. I'm like, Greenville? She was like, yeah, she has pneumonia. Pneumonia? I'm like, how did she get pneumonia? So then she shows me the x-ray. She was like, she's only breathing out of one lung. And she was like, it's so white, we can't even see her lungs. So we don't know if it's fluid on the inside or out. We're just going to send her to Greenville, to the Children's Hospital, where they can do more. Because when I saw the x-ray, you could not see anything. All you see is all white on the left side. So I called my daughter, because she works night shifts, and I tell her, I'm like, look, they finna send her to Greenville. So she jumps in the car, and she comes up there to the hospital. So me and her both are up there. Because I'm like, okay, you know, when you go to Greenville, it's kind of pretty much serious. So we get to Greenville. My daughter rides in the ambulance with the baby to Greenville. I drive. So while I'm driving, I call my mom. And I call my mama, and we begin to pray. And God spoke and said, no matter what it looks like, trust me, she's going to be okay. I'm going to see her through this, but no matter what it looks like, it's going to be okay. And I felt a knot in my stomach, and I said, okay, God. I was on 13, almost in Greenville. I was 10 minutes out of Greenville when God said that. So we get there. They determined that the next day, which is the 5th, that they were going to put a tube in her lungs to get the fluid out. So now we're on Sunday. They go through the whole thing. They just tell us, you know, we're going to put the tube in. And she started back running a fever overnight, but they did get it to break. And so they told me and my daughter the whole thing was going to take about 15 minutes. So we sitting, waiting in the waiting area. And I look at the time and I realize it's been like 20-25 minutes. So I kind of felt like something was wrong. And then they came in, so one of the doctors came out and told us that when they put the tube in, she stopped breathing on her own, which means that they had to put her on a ventilator. So we didn't panic then at that moment. We was like, okay. So, and they were going to send her up to PICU, which is the pediatrics ICU. So we run with her, on a bed to PICU. We get in there, and she's stable, everything is fine. So we get on Monday when they go to look at her x-ray. They realize that the ventilator is too deep, and that the tube that they put in to relieve the fluid was not deep enough. So that's tube number 1. So then they put a second tube in, and then they took that first tube out because they didn't want it to cause any complications. So overnight, fluid and stuff is draining. They do an x-ray that morning, and the doctor doesn't like it. She was like, it's too clear. And I was like, it's too clear. I'm like, I thought that's what we wanted. She said, no, it's too clear. So I'm watching them as they're having conversations, because they see like air pockets. They see like some black spaces or some dots or something where it wasn't supposed to be. So they decide to put a second tube back in addition to a third tube in addition to the second tube that they already had. So now she has two tubes going in to help drain this fluid, to help get air in, because they said that one tube was doing a good job of getting fluid out, but not enough fluid in. So Wednesday, the doctor had concern because she was like, it doesn't look good. This doesn't look good. I'm concerned because now what has happened is fluid is draining out, but now air is forming in places where it's not supposed to be, and they couldn't figure out what was happening. So the way they described it to my daughter and I is there's like blowing up a balloon. So basically, the baby's lung had collapsed. It expanded and shrunk, and in the process of all of that, it was causing her lung to shrink, and a hole, which is called a fistula, had formed in her lungs. So as they were pushing air in, it was also leaking back out. Now she also has fluid around her heart. So they made a decision on Wednesday to take the ventilator out because the ventilator was not helping her to heal, because she had pneumonia, and of course she had rhinovirus, which they found out at the hospital at Wayne. So Friday they take her off the ventilator. Everything is going okay. Saturday she was doing very good. That's the 11th. She was doing so good. I mean, she was doing amazing. She was doing so good that they were decreasing her oxygen that she was getting. I leave to come home because my oldest son had to go to work, and my daughter stayed there with her. And I called in video chat because they was like, when you take a child off a ventilator, it's very important that they have the people that takes care of her, that she lives with, and her things there with her. So I was making sure that I was video chatting with my daughter so she could see us, and all was well. So at 10 o'clock, all was well. So I was going to get back up at 5 o'clock as soon as my son got home and go back up there to the hospital, because the goal for Sunday was to kind of sit up with her, to get her, to breathe, just trying to get her to cough and get that gunk, mucus and stuff out of her lungs. Shanice gives me a call about 3 o'clock in the morning on the 12th. And she was like, Mom, the baby's having a fit, because she was going through withdrawals. Because they had to keep her on a lot of medication to keep her sedated. And they had a hard time doing it. I mean, they had a hard time keeping her asleep, because she was sitting up when she wasn't supposed to. She was shaking her head no when she wasn't supposed to, which is something new she was doing. But Shanice was like, Mom, because also earlier Saturday, the two tubes that they had put in, they had came out on their own. One came out on its own, and the other one started to work its way out, so they went on ahead and removed it. So she was saying, Mom, they don't want to put the tubes back in. And she was like, are you going to be here at 5:30? I was like, yeah, I'm going to be here at 5:30. As soon as Kyle gets here, I'll be on my way. She hung up. I don't even think 2 minutes went by. She calls me crying, saying, Mom, they're about to put her back on the ventilator. So I jump up. I call my mama. My mama come over. We go into prayer. We go into a heavy prayer, because me and the doctors had told us that there was a possibility that they may have to put her back on the ventilator, but I wasn't quite understanding like what happened, because when I left she was doing so good and I didn't quite get an understanding of what happened. So I get in the car on my way back to Greenville. I call my daughter so I can talk to her all the way there so I can hear what's going on. And I hear these people trying to console her. They have the staff that comes in and console you, trying to, telling you. And I hear my daughter, she's like, I'll be fine when my mama get there. And I know, like, they're consoling her like something bad is happening. But I don't think my brain would allow me to think that something like the worst was happening at that moment. But I can hear, we're talking to the doctors, and I'm telling the doctors, I'm almost there. And he tells us that they have to put her on ECMO, and he's explaining what that's going to do. So I'm pulling in. He was like, I need you guys to trust me, because we need to move. We need to do this like right now. I don't think neither one of us understood how dire that situation had gotten until later on, after they did what they had to do. So I go in consoling Shanice, and they wouldn't even let us in there. So when I got there, they had us in a whole nother room. We was in like a special room which like they was basically doing surgery or putting her on the machine, and so they just basically explained what the machine was going to do, and they wanted to give her lungs time to rest. So when we first see her, that was a lot to endure, a lot to take on. When the doctors told us, he was like, "We're going to give her a week. Oh, we're going to give her a week to her lungs, a week to recover." And they had to do ECMO. They had to do a cannula, which they put in her neck. They had to do one for her lungs, and then they had to do one for her heart too, because while they were doing the procedure, her heart went into distress. So at that point, um, it is what it is. I am still holding on to God's word that everything is going to be okay, despite what it looked like, despite what they're saying. And she had a nurse in there 24 hours. She had a technician in there 24 hours. These doctors, she was getting phenomenal care. And so, but even with seeing all of that, it's just still hard to see your baby up there like that, who was healthy and fine, just hooked up to all of these machines, not moving, not doing anything. But again, we're having to trust. So I'm in there praying over her, anointing her head, praying as I felt led to pray. I'm trying not to get emotional, but it was just hard. My daughter had to go home the first day because she's like, it was just too much. But when she came back, me and her both were there. We did not leave her side. So after we understood what was happening, like they wanted to give her lungs a week to rest overnight, her heart recuperated. And so I hear them talking, and they were over there whispering because her heart was working against the machine, and that was causing problems. So the doctor who did everything, he explained to us, like, this is what we're going to do. He was like, there probably will be some hiccups or some situations that come along the way, because it might not be just a smooth process, and it wasn't. So during that week they had issues with her blood pressure going up, even though they can control her body temperature and things like that. She was swelling. They were addressing that, but the biggest thing was like her blood pressure and her heart. Not that her heart was so strong that it kept working up against the machine, and it was causing problems. So the doctors, the weekend, because we knew we were going to take her off on Monday, which was the week of Thanksgiving. So the day before, the doctors, my daughter called. She's like, "Mama, I need you to talk to your baby." She's like, "Cause she's in here. Her heart rate was all high." And well, it wasn't high, but it's just beating so strong it was working against the machine. And she was like, the doctors is in here just trying to negotiate with her, like, "Look, can you just please give us until tomorrow?" And so Monday was the day they were going to recoup her lungs, meaning reopen it to see what she does. And so it wasn't even a guarantee that she was going to be able to like come off of ECMO, because we just didn't know how long she was going to be on it. But they wanted to recoup the lungs. So on Monday, they recouped her lungs. Everything was going well. So the plan was to take her off of ECMO the following week. So Wednesday, which is the day before Thanksgiving, they were having their morning rounds, and they discussed the plans for the day, what they wanted to do, and we found out that they wanted to take her off of ECMO. Me and Shanice were like, we were psyched, but I knew when I walked in the room because stuff was missing. Like, something was going on, but I didn't quite know what. So we got excited. So she had to pass two different tests in order for them to take her off of ECMO that evening, and she did it with flying colors. So basically, what they told me was they recouped her lungs. They opened up with no problems. Her heart was doing strong, so she was ready to come off of ECMO. So she came off the day before Thanksgiving. That following Saturday, they took her off the ventilator. That following Monday, she came off of oxygen, and we left PICU and went to KISU. And we stayed in KISU until Thursday. And Thursday we left there and went into rehab. And they had to put her in rehab because she was still on a feeding tube, and they had to, just basically wean her off the medicine. So She came off of everything faster than what she was supposed to, in the entire time. Like when they took her off of ECMO, the doctors kept coming in there looking at her in awe. I mean, like in complete awe. One doctor, he just looked puzzled, and he looked at me. He said, "This is miraculous." And I said, "No, this ain't nothing but God. Like, you might can't say it, but I'm going to say it because I know God did what he said he was going to do." And not only did he do what he said, when he intervened in the situation, everything happened faster. Now, he used those doctors to navigate her treatment, but the way she looked when she came off, they were surprised at how she was doing, how she was functioning, how she was looking. They were just in complete and total awe. So when we left, like, so much so that one of the doctors, when we was in KISU, came looking for her. She was like, "Where's my baby?" She's like, "Oh my God, I cannot believe this is my baby." Because one of the doctors told me, he was like, not too many people go on ECMO and come off. Or when you go on ECMO, because it could be so many neurological things that happen to you that you don't know what to expect when a person wakes up. And she had it together. Like, she did not miss a beat. And so while we was in rehab, she had to basically, it was like having a newborn, because even though it was only about 3 weeks, she couldn't sit up by herself. She had lost strength and energy. She couldn't walk. She couldn't drink and eat. So it was just like kind of trying to reteach her how to do everything. Well, which was like, that was last week. So last week, she came off the feeding tube on Wednesday. Thursday, she passed her swallow test, and tentatively her discharge date would have been yesterday, but she came home Friday. And now she's back walking. She is as if she don't look like nothing she been through. I mean, nothing she been through. Nothing. And again, a month ago today, she was on full life support. And so I just had to share this testimony about the glory and the goodness of God, because not only did God take care of he took care of us. You know, we had so many people praying for her, praying for us. I'm so thankful for the support that was given to my family. So grateful for the support. I'm so glad. I'm so thankful for my team, because they came through. I didn't even know. Like, God sent blessings. He had rams in the bush that we didn't even see coming. You get what I'm saying? Because people just wanted to make sure that we were okay. We didn't have to worry about nothing, because I went to Greenville. We went back and forth to Greenville every single day. If me and my daughter wasn't staying there, and one of us had to come home to stay with the kids because my son had to go to work, my mom, everybody pitched in. I'm telling you, whatever it took happened, but we did not miss anything. People wanted to make sure we were good, and that I'm so grateful and appreciative of, because everybody does not have that. And I'm so thankful, because God says when you do right by others, he will bless you, and he surely blessed us exceedingly and abundantly above all that we could ever imagine. And so now, right now, today, we are home. She's doing amazing. My daughter looked at me last night and said, "Mom, what is she going to go to rehab for?" And I was like, "I don't know," because she's walking. She's walking. Everything that the doctors on their timeline, she did it faster. She was off ECMO a week earlier than what they anticipated. She was supposed to be in rehab 21 days, and she was only in rehab for 7 days before we came home. So I said all that to say, we still serve a miracle working God. A lot of times, I was telling somebody, sometimes people reference miracles that God has done in the Bible, and absolutely that's the God. But I am a walking, talking testimony. My grandbaby is a walking, talking testimony as to what he can do. She's only 2. She does not have rhinovirus anymore. Her lung is healed. She's breathing. Not only did she come home, she came home. She didn't have to have any oxygen. She didn't have to have any oxygen. She didn't have to have any modified diets or anything. She is back to her normal self. And the prayer was that God, not only do you heal her, but God, you restore her to 100%, meaning with nothing. And however she would have had to come home, okay, but God will was absolutely done, and you could see the glory of God all over her. So I said all that to say, please be encouraged. No matter what it looks like, when God tell you He gonna do something, know that He is a God that He shall not lie. And I was telling my mama, I said, God prepared us before we got to Greenville about what was going to happen. And so the reason why she went on ECMO, the doctor told me, was because she started breathing too fast. And when she was breathing fast, that she wasn't getting enough oxygen in. The doctors was even impressed that even before she got there, like how strong she was and how she was doing, to only have been breathing out of one lung. She was, that whole week of us going back and forth to the doctor, she was only breathing out of one lung. One lung, y'all. And today, here she is, healthy and whole. And with that, I am truly thankful. We are truly blessed. So have I got my I got Thanksgiving was amazing because I cooked. After I cooked, I fed everybody, and I went back to the hospital. And Christmas, this is our blessing. I'm so thankful. So again, and she's only 2. Talked with some of my coworkers today, and some of they have had friends that have had children to go on ECMO and they didn't make it, as well as the doctors have told us that too. So when everybody goes into awe, when they look at her, when they talk to her, or when they see her, they are amazed. I just tell them, God did it. Say, hey. This is the blessing, y'all. So with that being said, guys, please be blessed. It was, again, this was just too much to type. But I really wanted to share this testimony, and I pray it blesses somebody, because God is still a miracle working God, and He performs miracles every day. And so for everybody that said a prayer, everybody that knew and said a prayer and fasted and just did what, thank you. And I pray God blesses you tenfold of what you've given unto us. So thank you. And that's it, everybody. You guys have a blessed day. You want to tell them bye-bye? You want to say bye-bye? She's about to hang up, y'all.